So what is JavaScript? What relationship does it have to do with Java? And the answer is almost none. Why did they call it JavaScript? Well, you may remember the company Netscape. They came out with the first really, really popular browser, and then they were kind of neck and neck with Microsoft for a while on making browsers, and then finally, since Microsoft installs their browser on every computer, Netscape kind of fell behind and morphed into Mozilla and stuff like that. So anyways, what JavaScript does, and it was a competitive advantage for a while over Microsoft, is it gives the ability to make interactive web pages. Right now, web pages look about, according to the technology that we explored, where's the text pad? According to the technology that we explored on Wednesday, all we had were static web pages. Static meaning that, yeah, you could follow links. That's about it. We could have added buttons. We could have added, fields to fill in. The way those worked is you filled in the fields, you pressed a button, and it went back out to the server and it retrieved an entirely new web page built upon what you had typed in those input fields, which could take 5 to 10 seconds, or if your internet choked, just sit there, you don't get your answer. So with JavaScript, you can make it interactive so that you can type in, a phone number, and it would validate the phone number right off the bat, even before it went back to the server. What could it do? It could make sure that it was either 7 or 10 digits long, and that it didn't have any letters in it, periods, other weird things that phone numbers aren't supposed to have. If it asked for a first name and a last name, it could make sure that you enter 2 things that look kind of like names, so that if your name is X space X, it might not accept that. If you enter in a date, it could validate the date without going back to the server, because communicating with the internet, communicating with the server takes an astronomical amount of time compared to how fast programs run. And you all know that. You've seen your browsers hang, when you're trying to get, hit a new page. You would stop using Amazon if every time you clicked on an interface button, it had to hit the server and bring that information back. Instead, you get the nice little pull-down menus, and you can add things to your cart and stuff like that. And it doesn't even hit the server until you go to the next, to the next page. And then there's a style of programming. I've already forgotten what it's called. Where you have threads in the background managing communications with the server, and in the foreground is all JavaScript presenting stuff. And that way, you don't see the communication going on in your browser isn't hung with a spinning wheel while you're waiting for it to communicate. Yet it is able to. And that's how complex programs like email programs, Gmail or Microsoft's online mail, you pull that up and it's a really complex page. And it's got all sorts of things, highlighting elements when you move over them, or you click on this stuff, and you don't see these big long pauses as you move over it. It's got code in the background that's communicating with the server, bringing in messages and stuff like that. That's really far more complex than what we're going to talk about today. So at its root, what it's built for is to make web pages interactive rather than static. And in the 90s, up until Netscape came along, they were static. Of course, Microsoft very quickly cloned JavaScript, and, as one is wont to do. Anyways, JavaScript is a front-end scripting language. Lightweight, but with limited capabilities. That means you're not going to write, Call of Duty or Excel in JavaScript. It can be an object-oriented language. Client-side technology. It runs on your browser. It doesn't run on the server. The JavaScript is downloaded to your browser as a text file, just like the HTML page is. And then it gets executed by your browser. It's interpreted by the web browser. If there are errors in it, then the web browser is free to do whatever it wants to with those errors. You used to see all those little pop-up messages, in the corner, that JavaScript error or something like that. Nowadays, they just tend not to display errors at all. They manipulate the DOM. DOM stands for Document Object Model. If you load a web page, everything on the web page is part of the document object model for that page. If we click and we see view source, we see all the objects that make up. It's a huge, web page actually. Doesn't look so huge, but nowadays web pages are complicated in order to look pretty. So it loads it in, and all these list items have to be added to the screen, and everything that you see has to be added to the screen. Everything you see is an object in a tree. And the tree is behind the scenes, so that it can respond to clicks and things can be changed around. Well, JavaScript gives, you could tell the client, well, I don't like that picture anymore. If I move my mouse over it, I want it to change to another picture. Or if I move my mouse over here and click on this, I want it to pull a drop-down menu and display some stuff. So you're making additions to this document object model that the client is maintaining. Implementing form validation. That's what I talked about, making sure you have a valid phone number, a valid birth date. I was not born on October 45th, that kind of thing. You can react to user interactions, like if you want to make a web page. You've seen the Google logo where you can actually play Pac-Man, that kind of thing. You're using the cursor keys. JavaScript is what captures the keys so that you can control Pac-Man on the screen. Changing an image when your mouse moves over it. Loading stuff up when nothing's happening, Sections of a page can appear and disappear. You click on something, it opens a new section of the page. Or pops up what looks like a little floating window, but that floating window is actually only on that page. So if you click over to another tab, that little floating window is gone. It was drawn with JavaScript. Content is loading and changing dynamically. Custom HTML controls like a scrollable table. AJAX, that's what I was trying to figure out. It stands for inner or asynchronous Java something. That's what's communicating to the server behind the scenes, while JavaScript is keeping the user interface nice and pretty and reactive so that it's not having to download a new page from the server, which can take several seconds. All right, we're sold on JavaScript. Alrighty, our first script. Let's do this in TextPad so that we can just click the preview button. File, save as. Or, launch TextPad. If you have to use the search bar, that's fine. TextPad. Then do file, save as. It doesn't give us a file name, so we'll make one up. I don't know. JVS for JavaScript. JVS1.html.
You don't have to, or the script, you don't have to declare the script type anymore, right? Well, on that page.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that stuff in the header, and it's got the script in the script language and the stuff like that in the header, but at its simplest, you don't have to. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Well, whenever you go back to the PowerPoint, I'll show you what
Okay.
I was saying.
Like that.
How it says script type.
Yeah, on the off chance that somebody made up another scripting language, then they would be able to put in, script type is equal to text/Microsoft script or whatever. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. So, but you don't have to actually do that, right? Because
I've never tried not.
HTML5 or something, they made it to where you wouldn't have to declare a script type.
That could very well be. I haven't investigated it. That could very, very well be. Alrighty, so HTML body. I like seeing some text on a page, so I'm going to put something in there. Just a paragraph. Hi. Alrighty. That's enough, but now we're going to embed our JavaScript right in the body of the HTML document. Now, normally you don't really do it that way. That's okay. Script type equals text back / the one under the question mark, JavaScript. We'll take out that type in a minute and see if it works. I didn't start tabbing things over as is proper, you know, like that. And all that this is going to do is say, hello, JavaScript. Actually, all mine is going to say hello because I can't type. There we go.
Awesome.
And for every opening tag, we need a close tag. So /script, /body, /HTML. I'm going to click the little planet and see if it'll load up. It popped up an alert. Those dreaded pop-ups. This page says hello. I can't guarantee that if you're running pop-up blocker software on your browser, that will work, you know.
Right.
So if you don't see it, it's because you're running a pop-up blocker. Maybe it'll ask you, you know, hey, it's trying to display a pop-up. Is that legal? Yeah. Browsers are pretty aggressive about trying to block pop-ups nowadays for good reason. Okay, so that's our first JavaScript. What does it do? This says, this is kind of like the main method, the main function in our Python code. Since it's the first piece of code in it, it's what it does. And the alert is like the message box that we did when we were doing GUI programming. It says hello, and that's it. Surely we can do something more impressive than that.
Oh. I don't know, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, instead we're going to write to the screen some text. We're going to use document write. What does document mean? The document object model. You could make an entire web page just with document writes. Let's go tag on a document write after this alert, or maybe before it. Document.write Coolness. It didn't actually display this stuff in the background until the alert was done. That's kind of interesting. But anyway, it says hi, it says Coolness. Why? Okay. Hi was up here, and then Coolness was here. I wonder if we reverse the order, if it would put Coolness above hi. I'm going to find out by cutting those two things, the paragraph and the end paragraph, and putting them below the script. Like that. Yep. So print it out Coolness, and then it printed hi. And if we right click and do view page source, what are we going to see? We're not going to see the original. I mean, we're not going to. It doesn't look like you might expect it. And what I mean by that is, I might expect it to look like this. HTML, body, paragraph, Coolness, you know. And then paragraph, hi, or whatever I put there, I forget. Slash body, you know, slash HTML. Why do I say that's what you might expect to see? Because that's what you're looking at when you're looking at the browser. Coolness, hi. Maybe I expected to say that. See that, Coolness inside one paragraph block, hi inside of another one. I don't though. When I right click on it, I see the original document, what got downloaded from the server. And whatever JavaScript decided to do to my document isn't reflected when I do view source. Now if I do inspect element, maybe I can get an idea for it. I'm going to come up here, and if you're using Chrome, you can do this. I'm not sure how you do it in other browsers, but you can right click on something and do inspect.
Oh yeah, just doing that.
And you get to see the current state of the document object model. So we see the word Coolness here. And then inside some paragraph tags we see hi. If I don't like that word Coolness here, I can right click on it and do delete element. Now my page is But all that did is modify the window, you know. It didn't modify the original JavaScript, the original HTML at all.
You can just say you can just do that on web pages if you just want to delete something off of it.
Yeah, like
Huh.
I'm not too fond of tornadoes. So I'm going to right click on that, inspect, see if I could find that thing, right click on it and do delete element, and now our tornado's gone.
What?
Which, by the way, is kind of useful. I shouldn't say things like this. But when something pops up a window saying you have viewed your 10 free articles for the month, sometimes you can just right click on that, do inspect, and say delete element, and then you can go ahead and read the article. So,
That's gay. Note to self.
so you could write an entire page with these document rights. I'm going to delete this alert.
Don't say it.
I don't want to see any alert messages anymore. This document right's going to be a little bit cooler than what we were seeing. I'm going to start a paragraph, document.write inside my paragraph. I'm going to make some strong text, or maybe EM for emphasis. Document.write, I'm going to say neato. And now really I ought to close my emphasis tag and my paragraph tag. So document.write /em, close our emphasis tag, and then document.write, I should have just copied and pasted the word document.write, /p to close that paragraph. All right, so it looks like it made HTML. Like I said, if we go and view, it's not letting me do it now. If I do view page source, I'd expect to see that neato inside of a nice paragraph tag, but I don't, because it's actually just part of the document object model. Just like bringing a new character on the screen in a video game, that changed the screen. Didn't actually change any any saved files or HTML or whatever. It just got inserted into the document object model. Now, do you really want to build web pages like that? Probably not, but you can make individual pieces of them pop up, or disappear with some stuff like that. So you can put the JavaScript code in the header or in the body. In the body is where it's not recommended. Or you can put it in an external file linked via a script tag. And then the files usually have the .js extension. Highly recommended. The JS file gets cached by the browser. Cache me outside. Okay. So JavaScript code is executed when the page is loading or whenever the browser, quote, fires an event. Firing an event, you clicked on a button, you resize the page, that kind of thing. All statements are executed when the page is loaded. However, there may be some functions up there in your header that don't get launched when the page loads because they're attached to buttons. Some statements just define functions that can be called later. So function calls or code can be attached as event handlers. What is an event? I clicked on a button. That's an event. So for example, image source onClick is equal to. So onClick is an attribute, the text of which, the content of which is JavaScript. Let's mess with that. We had some images in our directory. I'm going to go on the internet and find an image. Alrighty, button.
For some reason, when I execute mine, it's always showing if I inspect it, there's nothing on the page, and if I inspect it, it just says body.
Oh, that's interesting. I'll come right over. So what I'm going to do is I Google image search button. I right-clicked on it. I'm going to do copy image address. Hopefully your browser supports the same thing. If it doesn't, then we'll cope some other way. But copy image address, and then I'm going to go to my web page, and I'm going to put that in there. Maybe underneath the word hide. Image source is equal to, and I'm going to paste all that stuff that I copied. Oh, good grief. All right. Whatever. I don't know if it's going to work.
What is that?
Yeah, it's there. Okay. It's whatever I got when I went here and I right-clicked and I said copy image address. What I probably should have done is open image in new tab.
Saved it.
Oh, it's just got this horrible path. All right, fine. I should have chosen something with an easier path. That's ridiculous. Okay, like this one. Okay, much better. So
Wow,
right-click,
that's huge.
copy image address, come back in here, image space source equals quote, and then the path to an image. It could be a path to a file on your hard drive, or it can be a hypertext path. But when that's clicked on, I want it to pop up an alert. So I'm going to use that on-click syntax. On-click space equals quote alert. So I'm going to do that even before the source just because it'd be easier to spot. On-click equals alert. Why did you click this? I'm not totally sure that's going to work because we're mixing, quotes inside of quotes inside of quotes. Let me go see what their sample looks like. They put single quotes around the text and alert in order to avoid what I just complained about. Okay, so double quote, alert, parentheses, single quote, and some message, whatever you wanted to say when it gets clicked. And in parentheses, double quote, followed by the source, that's the path to your image. And now would be a good time for me to wander around and see how people are doing. Okay, the world's biggest button. I clicked on it and it says, why did you click this? So it's working. We made an interactive web page. This sets it up so that when that object is clicked, it runs that alert code. That alert code could be a function, just like we have in Python. We define a function and then on-click could call that function. And that's really the way people do it. They don't write entire programs and put them inside an image tag. Instead, they write, a whole bunch of code. They put that in a function, and then the image, just calls that function.
In our script, I have two quick questions.
Sure.
So you don't have to write the actual.
So here, we define a function called test, and onClick calls test. What test does is it accepts, it has a parameter called message that gets filled in by there. And then it pops up an alert message. So let's try something like that. We're going to do script type is equal to text.javascript up at the top of our code in a header tag, which we haven't made yet today. We did the other day. So before body, head, we know we're going to need a close head, so I'm just going to add it right now. You already have this line right here, the script type is equal to JavaScript. We may as well grab that rather than type it all in again. And we're going to write our function. Instead of the def keyword, JavaScript uses the function keyword. So function test that accepts some kind of data. I'm just going to use S for string. And in this language we use curly braces. rather than tabs to denote stuff. Alert S. I think I'm going to move my button up above everything just because I want it close to the header. So I'm going to put it above everything else. So instead of onClick is equal to alert, it's going to be onClick is equal to test, parentheses in parentheses, and I want to pass some text in that I want to be displayed. JavaScript is cool. I use single quotes to differentiate it from the double quotes. Why is that? Because if I used a double quote there and a double quote there, it thinks that's one entire string, and it thinks that that's the end of the string. So you kind of mix them up in order to get it to parse correctly. All right, I broke something. I wonder what I've done wrong. I forgot to close my script tag. I have an open script tag there. Close script. That's why it helps to tab these things out like that. It'd work if we removed all the tabs, or even if we stuck all this stuff on one line. But if you tab it out, it makes it easy to follow. Makes it easy to spot errors like that, not arrows. The slings and errors of outrageous fortune. Okay, so now when I click on the button, it says JavaScript is cool, because that's the argument that I passed to the function, which accepted it as a parameter named s, which we used in here. Now it's starting to look like real programming.
No, that is not what I had. Stop it.
I'm not sure I really like that great big block of right in the middle of my page.
Did you ever put commas between it so that way you don't have to keep them?
Do you mean like that and then put them all on the same line? Is that what you're asking?
Parentheses.
Oh, she's saying like do document.write and then have all of
Oh,
them.
I can have all of them in one. You're right.
It just looks crazy.
That would look a little bit better than having a huge mass of, there, like that.
Nothing, it's just not liking me right now.
So eventually we want to get to the point where we have fields where you can type stuff in, and then when you click a button, it does something with that field. Like, it adds 2 and 2 and prints 4 or something like that because you typed 2 in one field and 2 in another. Something like that. This is saying that we could have put that stuff, that JavaScript, in its own file. We could take that test function, delete it from here. Let's cut it. Make a new text file. Paste it. And do a save as. And make sure it's in your scripting folder. Save it as type JavaScript, and let's call it test.ts. Excuse me, JS. I know you can't see. It's way too small. But what I did is I changed the save as type to JS. And let me blow up the size of this text.
Did you say test or text?
I called it the same thing as the function name.
Okay.
JS, right, JavaScript?
Right. All right, so there's my test with an S test.js. It contains my JavaScript. I need to go and change this one, my HTML file, to point to that. And it put them both in the same thing. Okay, anyways. So, what you do is you say script space, and it doesn't matter what order you put it in. Source is equal to, and you point it to that file name. So script type is equal to blah, blah, blah. Source, whoops, not caps. I said not caps. src is equal to test.js. And if you can click on the button and it still prints JavaScript is cool, it means that it successfully loaded that from that file. What happens if we make a mistake, like I spell it text.js? Well, you might wish it would display an error, but nowadays browsers don't display JavaScript errors.
Moving on. That's what it says.
So I'm going to undo that change.
Are you still recording?
I have been. I stop it in order to wander around, and then I start when I sit back down. Okay. The JavaScript syntax. Wouldn't it be neat if you could run Python inside the browser rather than JavaScript? Because we've spent, 2 years of our life learning Python. The JavaScript syntax is similar to C# and Java. So it uses the curly braces. That's like the big difference. And you have all the same kind of things that we've seen before. Plus signs, equals, and or, increment. The variables are so-called typeless. I don't know what that really means. What it should say is that it is not a strictly typed language. If you just say A is equal to 3, you're able to turn around and then say A is equal to quote Joe, just like we have been doing. You've got conditional statements, if and else. You've got loops, for and while loops. You've got arrays. Arrays are what JavaScript calls lists. And in fact, arrays are what most languages call lists. The functions can return values, just like we've been doing. And then function variables like C# delegates. Well, we're not taking C# at the moment, so we don't know what a delegate is. So next semester. Alrighty, so numbers, integers or floating points. Boolean, true, false. A string can be a whole bunch of characters. An array, this looks real familiar, except it has the word var in front of it to define the variable.
We see that too, because sometimes you switch into it and you're like, oops, nope.
Yeah. And then associative arrays. This is like a dictionary. An A is equal to a 2. A B is equal to a 3. A C is equal to the string text. That kind of stuff. Everything is an object. That's pretty familiar to us because that's the way it is in Python as well. So strings and arrays have member functions. Test is a string that has the contents of some text. You can pull out the individual character with slicing. I don't know if you can do that colon business to get more than one. Char does the same thing as taking a slice. It would pull out the character at position 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to print an S. Char 1, of course, is the O. Substring is like our slicing. Starting at position 1 and going up to but not including 3. So that's just like our slicing was.
Why is character at 1 showing E?
Yeah, that's what I was just.
Character at 1 is showing E.
No, it's not. It's showing an O.
Or did you change it?
Oh, no, see, here's why. They put quotes around the word test here. So it's actually pulling,
3.
it's actually pulling that
Oh,
one out.
okay. I see now.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. And then so when they do 1 to 3, that's position 1 going up 2 but not including 2. So 2 and 3.
Yeah, because it's not the chart. Okay.
Here, instead of using dot append, they're using push to add something to an array.
That was kind of confusing.
So let's mess with that a little bit. Let's go into our JavaScript file. I guess I didn't save my JavaScript file. Oh, it's still in its own tab. You know what? Now it's no longer in its own tab. I like everything to be in its own window. I'm old-fashioned. Okay, so you didn't preserve my large font for that. Thanks. All right, let's define an array. Var names equals Joe, Bob, and Beth. And let's just do alert on names and see what in the world it's going to do. We know what it does in Python. Prints the entire list out separated by commas. So now I have to go back to my original one and run it again and click the button. Or I could just go over here and refresh it, you know. He's not doing nothing. I'm going to put an alert above that var. In test, like that, just to see.
When you
say-
have to change
But isn't it
the
referring
S,
back to
the function at the top, function test S, when you have to change that to name?
No.
because isn't it referring back to in the script?
Well, in the HTML, we are still calling
We're still calling S.
test. Is that the wrong HTML? Where's my image?
Right there.
Right there. Okay. So yeah, it's still calling test, which is imported. Oh, I changed that to text. You were telling me that, right? Okay.
I just couldn't say words.
Yeah. My brain's fried. Okay, test.js. Now I can go and remove that extra. Alert. I only need one alert in here. Okay. So I told it to print the array out, and unlike Python, when it prints an array out, Python shows the square braces. JavaScript does not. Let's add a few elements to it. Go back to your script, and let's add whatever they passed in as an argument. So names.push S. Save it. Come back to the other one. Run it.
Why are you doing that?
And it says Joe, Bob, Beth, JavaScript is cool. So it tacked on to that array whatever data we passed into that function. Let's change the name Joe to something else. So names 0 is no longer going to be Joe. Joe took the day off and got replaced by Sue. And so it says Sue Bob Beth, JavaScript is cool. So, it's the same kind of stuff we've been doing. We've been doing a lot of lists stuff in Python. The syntax is very, very similar. Yeah, they named the function something different. They didn't call it append. So the plus sign will join two strings, fat cats. So alert string 1 plus string 2 would print out fat cats. This is a little bit odd. I don't think Python lets us get away with this. If you try to add a number to a string, Python would give us an error and say incompatible types. JavaScript just goes ahead and says that it's equal to 99. But you can convert a string to a number. Instead of the int function that we use all the time, it uses parseInt, but it's the same thing. Why do you have to do that? Because any data that you pull off the page out of a field that somebody types in is going to be a string. Just like our input function always returns a string. Declaring a new empty array. I suppose you could do it like that. I think I would have just done the empty braces. Surely that would have worked. Let's find out. So, I'm going to just, commenting stuff out in Java. Temporarily, I'm just going to delete all that stuff. I'm going to paste it back. But I want to run it and see if that declares an empty array or if I have to follow the syntax I said. Nope, that created an empty array as well. So now I undo that. This syntax looks a lot like Java or C++. The new keyword. We didn't have to do that, but you saw me make mistakes and say something like turtle, t equals new turtle. I was trying to slip into JavaScript or Java or C++ mode there. What new says is I'm creating a new object. And this is the type of the object. That's the class of the object. If you want to remove an object from the list, you can use pop. And that's actually true in Python as well. If you push something onto the end of the list, you can also pop it back off the list. You want to find something in the list, you use index of. So if we print out the index of, Beth, I forget where Beth was, let's go look.
3 or 2.
Yeah, so it would be index position 2. 0, 1, and 2. That's why you spend a long time learning one language, but then that knowledge carries over to the next one. All right, so an alert box looks like that, but we can do something a little bit cooler. A confirmation box displays an OK and a cancel button.
Oh, cool.
So let's change that alert to confirm. So where it says alert names, I'm going to confirm names. Confirm. Save that. Run your page.
JavaScript is cool. Okay.
Okay, or cancel.
JavaScript is not cool. Cancel.
Cancel. Right now.
Say confirm with an M.
Confirm with an M as in Mother Mary. And then there's one called prompt. What prompt does is it displays a place where you can type in data. Their example is prompt, enter amount, and then displaying a default value of 10 into the amount. Yeah, that'd be cool. We could add a name to the list or something like that. So let's prompt them for a name. So instead of pushing, so variable new name equals prompt tell me your name, comma, and the default value is going to be I.dunno. And let's push that onto the names list rather than S. So names.push new name. All right, what's your name? My name is Jeff. It says Sue, Bob, Beth, Jeff.
And then you confirm it.
So this is kind of cool because we were doing all that all of our stuff, you know, just on a text window. This is letting us, you know, type stuff into little pop-up windows. It's kind of cool. There's an argument for teaching JavaScript rather than Python as your first language. It's not one I would make, but people are more interested, you know, in web stuff. And the problem with it is that you get so few hints as to what's gone wrong. Y'all seen that, you know. I had text parentheses rather than test parentheses, and it just flat out didn't tell me I had it wrong.
Maybe they'll teach it in like an IDE or something. That'll make it to where. It tells
Yeah,
you
where you had it.
Yeah.
And Google and some other people have made languages that are based into JavaScript or that get compiled into JavaScript so that they can run on a web page, but they're stricter languages.
So in Python, can you point to a JavaScript file and then run that JavaScript file? Or?
You could. Good question. Can Python and JavaScript interact? Yes, they can. You can use Python to either launch a browser with a web page that you've made, or you can actually have Python be your web server, and nobody's going to do that. But in which case, Python could be issuing like all those write commands, and some of the stuff that it writes could be JavaScript. And so that may be something that we do on Monday. I had that as an assignment previously where we ran an entire web page using Python as our web server. This is the concept of a web server.
So, in that window, if you clicked on your thing again and added another name, like you did it and then you added one name, and then you clicked it again and added another name, how would you make it save that first name you put in there?
Good question. So the question is, you know, each time we click the button, it erases our list. Why don't we try cutting that and pasting it outside of the function? Let's see if that works. So I click that, I type in a name, I click it again. Yep, it's appending the name each time.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So just like our global variables, if you define something outside of a function, it's available to all the functions. I want to say in that file, but actually I think it's for the entire web page. I think that if we had something down here that printed out the names and it was in this file rather than the other one, then it would still work. So the sum of numbers. We need a document that contains a body that has some forms in it. Now we didn't show this Monday. We didn't get this far. But you use the form tag to define a form. And a form can have places where you fill in data. So, I guess we're going to type in just almost exactly what we see here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to steal this stuff, copy and paste it. So I'm going back to the HTML now, rather than modifying that .js file anymore. So inside of body, I'm going to do this. I'm pasting the form. I just added all of this stuff. And I'm sorry it's so much to type. We could shorten it a little bit, but not much. So it says form name is equal to main form. They put a capital F there. And then input type is equal to quote text. And then they give it a name, text box 1. Now they're capitalizing this stuff. I'm going to remove those capital letters as I go along. So it's going to be main form with a lowercase f, text box 1 with a lowercase b, text box 2. So input type is equal to text, name is equal to text box 2. So we have two text fields, text boxes, and then we have a button. And then we have another button. So the name of this button is going to be process with a lowercase p. And then the name of this button is going to be text box with a lowercase b, sum with a lowercase s. Probably messing y'all up by changing all those to lowercase if you cut and pasted like I did. Alright, now the form's not going to work because the scripting behind it's not there, but if I view it, I'll see it. See, here's my place where I could type in another number, and when I click promise, it's supposed to add those two numbers together and print the results right here. Now did it? No, because the JavaScript code's missing. We need a function called calcsum. Notice here, and this is kind of like what you were saying, our other place where we did onClick, we didn't precede the name of the function with JavaScript. Here they're saying that we need to. Ah well. Now we're going to add a function called calcsum up here in our script underneath that source is equal to test.js. I'm not sure if we need to put it in its own script tag or not. On the off chance we do, I'm going to copy this stuff. This is getting too messy to follow. That's alright, this will be about the last thing we do. Let's leave it all alone and then just put our calcsum function inside of test.js. So pull back open your test.js. We need a new function. Function calcsum. I forgot to make it a lowercase s. I'm going to go and put a lowercase s here. And go back to my file here and make that a lowercase s as well. And I'm sorry, but I got to go back and look to see what the script looks like. It doesn't accept any parameters. So calcsum doesn't accept any parameters, and then it has an opening curly brace. And then we do var v1 is equal to, and this is a long string, sorry, parse int with a capital INT, parentheses, document.mainform.textbox1. I made mainform lowercase f, text box, I made that a lowercase b, value. That gets the value of whatever the user typed in the first text box, in the first field. Now I can copy those two lines and paste them and change it to var2, var v2, and text box 2. Var v2 is equal to all that. Parse int text box 2. For now, let's just use an alert statement. Alert result equals plus v1 plus v2. Because we've already done an awful lot of typing. I'll bring it back in a minute. It didn't work. I don't even know if it got in there. Maybe I didn't save my script. I'm going to call an alert as soon as it gets into CalcSum, just so that I know it did anything. I am in CalcSum. Still didn't do anything. Oh, I haven't clicked process yet. All right, it is not working, but that's okay. Monday is another day. I'm going to take that JavaScript colon off.
So when you define a function that doesn't have a, or doesn't,
Well, I've broken it completely at this point. It's not doing anything when I click that either. So I have more JavaScript errors than just that. Oh, you see what I've done wrong is I don't have a closed parentheses, a closed curly brace. Be neat if that was all that was wrong. Am I confident of that? It worked.
Yep.
Awesome possum. Okay. So I'm going to actually run it, and I'm going to type in two numbers and see if it displays a result. 12 and 30 should be. Did I add them together, or did I multiply them? 12, 30.
You just add, it's 12 and 30.
Oh, 12 and 30. They are strings.
Right.
But they're not strings because I said to parse int. Whatever, but I tagged them on there. If I took that word result off, it would treat them like they were numbers. So I'm going to remove that alert, leave that one, but take the text out of it. And that is really more than enough. I've made so many little changes now it's going to be hard for people to follow. Okay, but that is working. So let me pause the recorder, wander around and try to help. This is the last thing we're going to do, so let me make a Dropbox.